But folks, I really do believe there comes a time in our midst where we need to learn the lesson of being quiet. Why would anybody tell the children of God to be quiet? Well, I can think of a few reasons. 2 million Jews who've been on this journey now for all of these years, and they're closing in finally after 40 years on the promised land, or near the promised land. After 400 years in Egypt, they're this close now to finally winning the victory. And Joshua says, shut up. Why would he say that? Well, I'll tell you one thing. As they're marching around the walls of Jericho, this military outpost surrounded by impenetrable walls, as they're walking around and nobody can say a word, nobody can talk, nobody can even say one word or make any noise with their voice, you know what they're not going to hear as 2 million of them walk around those walls? They're not going to hear one single person say, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. This has got to be the most ridiculous plan in all the world. They're not going to hear anybody say, I tell you, I don't know about this guy, but I've got 40 years of experience walking around in this wilderness, and my 40 years of experience tells me this is not the way to get it done. They're not going to hear a word, but they're not going to hear one negative word. They're not going to hear one person who's been in the church for 40 years and they're fond of saying things like, oh, I'll tell you what, these are the best days we've ever had at the church. Boy, I'll tell you what, we've never had as good as we have it now. But not going to hear any buts. Had a guy in church one time, went in the hospital, new member of the church. Him and his wife were at the hospital. One of the older, more mature members came to visit this guy in the hospital. And the fellow said, boy, what a service we had this past week. I could feel the glory bumps. I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit, brother. It was so good I can still feel it now. What do you think? And the older, more mature member said, well, I'll tell you, it was good, but do you realize that every time you follow even the most positive comment you can make with the word but, that you completely negate anything positive you said before that? Do you have any idea what you are doing to those who are not as mature in the faith as you are when you pronounce how great something was, only to follow it up with the word but, and then you tell them how you'd have done it differently? Church can't have but one pastor. Class can't have but one Sunday school teacher. We can't have but one order of leadership in God's kingdom. And we don't need you to come along with the word but and negate everything positive that was said before that.